Hey, this is Doug and Brad with the Darksliders podcast. So the first part of our podcast in which we talk about Shadow of Mordor and we talk about Rocket League. We actually recorded Sunday night. I think as everybody knows right now, Satoru Iwata, the president of Nintendo, died over the weekend. Kind of was a huge shock to everybody. So instead of just going like into a regular podcast, like games we play, we will get to that eventually. You'll notice we'll kind of pop into another recording when we talk about that. We just kind of want to talk a little bit, not necessarily about Satoru Iwata, but just sort of, we'll just talk a little bit about Nintendo and kind of their position in the industry. And I think just before Satoru Iwata died, everybody was really down on Nintendo. I think during E3. But now you see that there's this sort of like outpouring of love from fans, and like there's people who are like, I'm sad about this, and there's people who are like genuinely in tears over this news.
Yeah, I actually just saw this earlier before we started recording. There's actually a petition right now for a Wada amiibo to be released. I just saw that with a whole bunch of signatures on it. So I don't know how much traction that has, but the dude was really, huge influence at Nintendo. He's been the president since 2002, so I believe like 13 years worth of time. Basically everything post GameCube he's kind of been in charge of and been spearheading. So it's, a huge, huge news for Nintendo.
Yeah, I think at the very least this shows that people still care about Nintendo. I think that because everybody's so negative about Nintendo, just because we are negative about Nintendo doesn't mean we still don't like Nintendo. It doesn't mean we don't respect these people who had these companies. When I heard the news, it really made me sad because it kind of felt like a toy maker died. Their games don't really have any cynicism to them. They're systems they designed for families, they designed for children. Yeah, there are like we still have teenage and like fans in their 20s and 30s and things like that. But Nintendo always been kind of at the forefront of like, we make games for kids. Like we kind of acknowledge that kids are playing Call of Duty and stuff now, but no, here's a game that you can actually play with your family.
And if you look at all those things you're saying, like all of that, or a lot of that at least, stems from him. Like if you go and look at some of the things that he said at press events over the years and things like that, his big thing was that games are fun, and I think that stance that everybody kind of has with Nintendo, and this is how I feel about Nintendo, is that, Nintendo doesn't really care what's going on in the industry. They're trying to do their own thing, and they're trying to be fun. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that came from him, and I think that he was kind of the one who started that push for, I don't really care how serious and epic and over the top and, just whatever all the other companies are doing. You know what? We're going to stick with our path, and we're going to have things that are fun, and that's going to be the above all thing that we're going for. Is we're making games and we're making fun. Some people obviously are not, like you were saying. There's a lot of cynicism with it, but I think overall that's just an awesome spot for Nintendo to be in, and I think that's a huge thing that he kind of pushed that company that direction, because he took over, I think, shortly after the GameCube, which was not the biggest selling thing ever, but and really turned the company around when he took over.
Yeah, if we think about like the Wii, I think right now like the way that like the majority of people play games is through mobile gaming. But he wanted. I'm not sure if I'm sure I'm sure it wasn't his only idea. Obviously, he had a board of directors and things like that. But Nintendo wanted to kind of bring. It's like the PlayStation isn't just the thing that you put your kid upstairs and they lock themselves in their room and they play video games like I don't know, like PlayStation or Xbox or whatever else they market themselves as, like these things for teenagers. Like no, video games are for families.
Yeah,
and I like that. And like all of their consoles, I would say since the GameCube, like the GameCube was kind of like not a hardcore system, but it wasn't much different than say PS2 or Xbox. I like that there was at least one company in the industry that was always pushing for family and for gaming with your kids. Like if you look at Wii U commercials, it's never like cool teenagers sitting on couches and playing games. It's like young families. Like I really, really like that idea, especially, like I said, when, M-rated games are the number one selling things on the planet.
Yeah, but overall, it's really sad news. And he was only 55 too, which is, that's young.
Well, let's move on to the rest of our news for this week.
So there's a new Trackmania trailer.
Yeah, it looked really cool.
Yes. Well, okay, well, let's talk about the trailer first. The trailer itself was it was a good trailer if you just mute it. You know what you should do is watch that trailer. Huh?
You didn't like the conversation going back and forth?
It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a conversation. They're obviously reading off a sheet of paper. Like, oh no, watch out for that turn ahead. He's like, don't worry, I got it. Ugh.
I'm going to go to this environment. It is my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, it could actually be his favorite. He could have just said that. He didn't have to read that. He could have said, "This is my favorite environment. Let's talk about it." But yeah, so the new trailer was basically two guys. I think it was like a producer at Ubisoft and a producer at probably Naudio, the company of Trackmania, who are doing this video. But anyway, so if you want to watch these trailers, watch the trailer, mute it, and then turn on any song that has electronic dance music. And that's basically how. That is honestly when I heard Trackmania was released, and I was like, oh, that is like the best announcement ever. And then I realized Spotify is on PS4, and I was like, holy crap, this is the best thing ever. Because that game's music, I felt kind of bad because in the trailer they mentioned that it's going to have this really unique sort of music system.
Yeah, I was really excited about that. I like when games like kind of incorporate their music like that.
No, yeah, it's really cool. So like when you break, the music slows down, or when you're drifting, it kind of warbles the sound, and it kind of hits the rhythm with your turns. I was like, wow, that is really sad because I'm going to mute that game immediately and turn on some other music.
Yeah, I feel like that's true with every racing game. Like, I don't know, like racing games and sports games, I don't think there's any that I actually listen to anything. It's just, nope, I'm going to do my own.
Yeah. What I do is like actually some of the sound you do need. So what I do is just I turn up sound effects and then just mute the music, and then put on whatever soundtrack I want. This honestly this like game got me into electronic. I don't even listen to electronic dance music anymore, like at all. But if I'm playing Trackmania, I'm going to be listening to electronic dance music. It just fits really really well with that game. I don't even talk about Trackmania, Brad. How do you like? Are you excited for this? Like, does this trailer have you pumped?
I see when they first announced it, I was like, okay, whatever. I remember playing that game a while ago. Like, I'll check that out. But like, I sat through like the entire the trailer's like 8 minutes long, and I sat through that whole trailer, and just by the end of it, I was like, okay, I need to play this. Like, I forgot how much fun this game is. Yeah, I'm just excited about it because I played it before. The last time I played it was like before I was really into Trials, or before I'd played really any games like it. So I think just going back to this, I'm going to be excited to try it.
Yeah, there's been like 4 Trackmania games since the last time you played Trackmania.
Yeah, the last time I played was, what was that, 2008, 2009?
Yeah, Trackmania Stadium. Not Trackmania 2 Stadium, just Trackmania Stadium. This is actually the first time, I have paid for them before, but like the game is normally free. The original game was Trackmania Stadium was free, and they started charging for them. But this is probably like 5 years worth of content, which is freaking crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited. The one thing I did have a question about, and I don't know if this is something completely new, they talked about double driver, where you had 2 controllers for 1 car. Is that something new?
What is that? Did they explain that?
Yeah, they demoed it.
What is it? I didn't watch that.
So the way it looked like it worked is you're playing. You have 1 car, and on top of the car is like a bar that like indicates which way you're trying to turn the car. Yeah. And like you have to try and get like the angles perfectly aligned between the 2 of you. That like affects the car. I couldn't really figure it out. It looked weird, and it didn't look like it made sense to me.
It sounds like a drinking game.
It totally sounds like a drinking game.
I don't know why you do that and just wouldn't do split screen. I'm sure it's gonna be fun. I'm sure it'd be fun for a laugh. Like, hey man, check this out. Let's do this for about 3 seconds and then get really mad at each other. No, that is brand new.
The race ones, yeah.
I'm so surprised they're doing that because that game is freaking hard. Like already, I couldn't imagine having to introduce like another player to help me turn.
Yeah, I don't know. That looked weird, but I'm really excited for this game. The more I see of it, and the more I remember like going back to like, oh yeah, I remember sitting there like because this was when we were in college. I remember being like sitting at Doug's computer and like I'd run a lap on a track, and then he'd run a lap on a track, and then
oh yeah, I forgot that. And then we had like our other roommates go and run laps and stuff like that. Yeah,
and just like the 4 of us would like alternate through like the minute-long track and see who could get the best time. We just play like a track for like a half hour. So the more I like think about this, the more I'm like really excited for this game.
Yeah, and I think it has local split screen. I assume.
I'd hope so.
They'd be crazy if they didn't. Yeah, this would be like a perfect game for local. Actually, this would be a really fun game even online with people. A lot of crap talking, especially the thing I really like about this game. It's like when it comes down to 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, it could be a 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
But they did do something different to get that 1/10 of a second. It's nothing in this game is random. It's all entirely up to the player, and I love that. That's kind of why I like. That's actually why I like it more than Trials because I feel like Trials. I'm not going to talk too much about Trials.
You can get lucky.
Yeah, and it's not. And it's like an analog stick, so there's like a million more points that you could screw up along different directions. Oh, this is like very digital left, right, brake, stop, slow down. It's
Yeah.
really simple, really good. It's kind of like Rocket League in that regard. Okay, so in less exciting news, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 has finally released its official trailer. I think they had like some small gameplay stuff, but I don't think it was ever like a legit. This is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, and everybody's worries were totally justified.
Oh, looks so bad.
I I don't know. I was actually trying to look up videos of Project 8. I think Project 8 might actually look better than this.
It's close for sure.
Oh man, as we're sitting here talking, I'm gonna keep looking this up. But yeah, this game, like, I think people are worried. It's like, oh no, it looks like an early PS3 game. It's gonna be crappy. It's gonna be this, and man, I don't even know what to say. It doesn't even look. It doesn't look like even like I know you can't say a game. You can't tell how a game plays, but when it's not in your hands. But it just looks. It looks like a jankier version of a PS2 game of the PS2 versions, which is
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Well, and even like, I mean, there's no. They showed off a couple environments in the trailer, and there was little detail in the environments too. Like everything just looked really bland.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I'm looking. I'm looking at some videos of Project 8. Project 8 looks way better. Wow. Wow. And this game, actually, I think, honestly, the most surprising news of Tony Hawk 5, besides this Tony Hawk 5 stuff, is that it's $60. Like, it is
Yeah.
a full retail release.
Well, to be fair though, the PS3 and 360 ones are only $40
Oh yeah, but I'm saying why isn't the PS4 version $40?
because it has online play, and the PS3 and 360 ones don't.
Is that?
Yeah, that's seriously why they cut $20 off.
God.
As their justification was no online play.
Man,
So, yeah.
that's gonna be freaking brutal when that thing comes out.
This is a game that I would pick up for $5 just to say, it's new Tony Hawk. I'll pay $5 for that. I feel like if you do a PSN release of this, it gets a much better reception.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, if it's being released as a $60 game, it's going to be judged as a $60 game. If it was released as, say, a $20 game, it's like, well, that wasn't very good, but it was worth $20.
Exactly, and it doesn't have that slide on it. It's basically just, okay, nope. Do I get The Witcher 3? Or Tony Hawk 5?
That was exactly what I was about to say. I was just thinking about that because I've been trying to find The Witcher 3 for sale, and then it dawned on me, it's like, wait, people can choose. Think of like $60 games currently, and then would you rather have Tony Hawk?
Yeah.
I can't think of a single person. And I think that's weird too. It's like the people that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is going to be aimed at is people our age in their 20s.
I feel like Tony Hawk's not relevant at this point. I don't know who I'm going off of with that, but in my mind, people under like 18 don't know who Tony Hawk is at this point.
Yeah, and they definitely don't know. I mean, even if they do know what it is, like they haven't really played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series.
Yeah.
So let's get a bunch of people who are now actually like kind of smart with their money, and then like I especially I feel like because they're doing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, like they're getting a sort of hardcore audience with that. Like, oh hey, do you remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 through 4? And that's all people are gonna think about. Like, man, I'd rather be playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 through 4.
Yeah, bust that out on my Dreamcast.
Yeah. Oh, you had the Dreamcast versions? I didn't even know they had Dreamcast versions.
Oh yeah, I don't remember which one. I've got one of them for my Dreamcast. I think it's 1 or 2. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I was
I
gonna
don't think
say
all 4 were on there, but I know 1 or 2 was.
Yeah, it might have been 2. So this is kind of cool. A Five Nights at Freddy's 4 trailer came out. Well, I'm not really interested in Five Nights at Freddy's. All I can think of every time I do Five Nights at Freddy's game is released, I'm like, good job, guy who makes Five Nights at Freddy's. I really appreciate the series a lot, actually.
Why?
Because the guy, okay, so this is the 4th game he's released in a year. But every game is like a wholly unique environment. It usually has like a general twist on what the original gameplay was. It's only like 2 or 3 hours long, but it's priced that way. They're not like crazy. I think they're $8, like $5 or $8. And like it's instead of it's because I feel like people are like, oh, he's milking the franchise, but he's just releasing them as episodes. It's not like they're
it's essentially going like the Telltale route.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think people are kind of giving him like shit. It's like, oh, how can you release 4 games? Like, I mean, total time, even with the 4th game, would probably be like 8 or 10 hours of gameplay, which is one game.
Each one's $5. I mean, that's $20 for 10 hours of gameplay. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, and I kind of appreciate it. It's a guy who's like a one-man army, and the fact that like he basically started the series because he was really depressed after Jim Sterling ragged on his game. I think.
I do remember this now. I totally had no clue what the reference point for this game was when Doug wanted to talk about it, but I totally remember that now.
Yeah. I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like a guy who's like an independent developer who made a really successful game, and it's obviously like there's. I mean, I've played and at least watched all of them. And it's obvious that the guy actually put like a lot of thought in these games. They're not just simple like one-offs, like, oh, I'm gonna make a game, la di da, just releasing. People think it's oh. I mean, he has like completely pre-rendered graphics, which take a lot of time to 3D model, and then he actually has like a super elaborate story. I don't know if you know that, like the Five Nights at Freddy games are incredibly elaborate.
Really?
Yeah, like there's a timeline of like three different Five Nights at Freddy's areas, and there's like these dead kids who are possessing robots, and then there's this evil murderer guy, and I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. You really don't know anything about the series, do you?
I literally know. In my mind, like I just hear it mentioned alongside games like Slender and stuff like that. So it's just like whatever. I don't care.
I think it's better than Slender because from what I'd seen of Slender was kind of like, oh, you go out in the woods and you collect things, and then Slender Man occasionally pops out at you. Well, this one actually has like some strategy, like the animatronics like moving around, and they're like there's an actual gameplay to it. It's not just something somebody like drew up in Unity or something one day, and it was their first game, and they're just like, oh well, we can just kind of half-ass it and just release this. I think it's obvious this guy just puts a lot of heart into each of these individual games, and he makes a lot of money off it. So I mean, I can't blame the guy. I mean, he's making games. He's making games he wants to make. So he's making a ton of money off them. I'm really hoping that he's like saving enough money though to like make like a real, I don't know, a $20 game or something like
Ooh, getting
that.
fancy.
So that's the episode for this week. If you want to follow us, we're Darksliders_POD at Twitter. You can also follow us on YouTube, SoundCloud, pretty much wherever you're listening, you're going to be able to follow us. So hopefully, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.